Joe's comment or not?
6 o'clock, call to order, quorum has been established, everybody can Joe is here. So, quorum has been established, you'll stand for the invitation, followed by the pledge. And for the invitation, I'm just going to do the Lord's Prayer. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, forgive us our sins, as we forgive those who trespass against us. Lead us not in temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the power, the glory, and the honor forever. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. You've got the agenda in front of you, unless somebody wants to make some amendment to it. Motion to adopt the agenda as presented.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Any opposed? Okay. We've only got a couple of items. The first is discuss the proposed budget for fiscal year 22-23, proposed projects to be included in the budget. And I just kind of want to remind you, I put projects in here and, put values in here, but it doesn't mean that's what we're going to end up. It's entirely based a lot of times on timing, when we get things done, a whole bunch of different criteria. So even though we have a dollar value in here with a name of a project, that project in and of itself may not end up being done when something takes its place. I've always brought that to y'all, the council, to approve all those big expenditures. So it's not, it's not anything surprised. I don't do anything without the council's approval of those type of things. And the reason I'm saying that is because we finally have got a ballpark for 2 fields that we're going to try to make a concerted effort to do. And you have the layout that we're going to try to get bid out here within a few months and try to get this done before the next ball game. And what we've done is we have initially we were going with 235 or 250, and there was a whole bunch of taking and back and forth that went on, and eventually they said, no, we want 300-foot fields. Well, we can do 300-foot fields, but we have no idea the cost, so we're only going to do 2 at this point to see what those costs are, and I think we can work those within the budget. We also have an opportunity maybe to get some FEMA funds for those ballparks, so we're going to be doing the rest of the design and get the bid out for the T-ball field, or whatever you want to call it, the handicap field, and 2 fields. And what we're going to try to do is before the next season, have those 2 backfields done. As a backup, the middle field here, we found out we still have $100 and some if we can get done. We're going to redo this field, putting up lights and things like that, because eventually that field will go out if we end up putting the other 2 300-foot fields in. When you look at it, you can see there's some question of whether we would even be able to do that with the covered basketball court. You can see by that. But at this point, we're going to assume that we're going to make sure that field is ready to play, as well as the 2 back ones and the front. That's what we're going to shoot for. Now, in the budget I've put in there, I did not put those values for the field specifically in there, but it will be, brought to the council as we're getting bids and things like that, so that you can approve them before we go that far. So, that's why I'm kind of saying it's, when we go through the budget, you'll see projects, and there may be some that moved out. And of course, the other thing is, we're going to look for any kind of funds that we can get, either from the parish, from FEMA, from anything else that matters, to be able to offset those costs. Those things aren't necessarily put in there either. So, keeping that in mind, The budget, I'm gonna kind of give you some idea of some of the assumptions that we're putting in for the budget, that we put in for the budget. The sales tax has always been a steady uprise. In fact, we're going to break $3 million in sales tax, which will be the first time. We just broke $2 million a little over a year and a half, 2 years ago. And before that, it was always 1.8, 1.6, 1.5. You know, I think we're going to break 3 million plus the way sales tax is. And some of it's coming from the, you know, the truck stops and all of that stuff is helping the sales. People kind of staying local with sales tax, you know, so all that's kind of helping that out. The gaming, boarding fees, we've increased almost back, we're working it back to what it was pre-pandemic, pre-hurricane. You know, assuming nothing like that hits us again. We also have a $30,000 legislative grant that was submitted in the budget for Iowa. We're not sure if the police department, it really don't make a difference to town. But we do know that that was put in there as a special project and part of the grants. And of course, we are getting a grant for motorcycle cameras. We put that LGAP the other thing is, not on my assumptions, but we also put in a 7% increase in salaries across the board. Right now, I think it's averaging 8.9 or more, and increasing at 1% a month. You know, I guess we don't want to get too far behind on our employees by having that ask. So that was put in, the assumption that was put in and built in all of this, as well as a couple of things was insurance was dramatically higher. You know, and very interesting, I'm gonna tell you a quick story. We got a check from Louisiana Municipal Risk Management. What was that for?
Well, they had an audit for 2020,
No, how much was it?
71,000.
71,000. And that was workman's comp that we overpaid more than 2 years ago, and they just audited it. The main reason that we switched from them originally was because we were getting a lower price from another company. If they'd have audited us and gave us that money back for that year, we would have probably not changed. But now we're 2 years down the line, we didn't even know we were going to get it. We just got a check here about a week ago for $70,000 that represented overpayments of workers' comp. Now, the company that we are using now, they do pay dividends. We haven't seen the first dividend. We're supposed to increase it to one that the fire department uses. So, you know, we'll keep that in mind, but, you know, be aware that workers' comp, all the insurance has increased pretty dramatically. We talked about, in an earlier, meeting about the increases on liabilities and, you know, property and all of that increased. All that's been built in. Sales tax 1, grant revenue, we expect $1.6 million reimbursement. Now, FEMA announced that, oh, we're getting $1 million. We haven't seen that money. The state's sitting on that money, and they keep dragging it out. We don't know when we'll see it, but we do know that FEMA did approve it. FEMA did give it to the state. They just haven't given that to us. We do have another $600,000 reimbursement that we should be anticipating.
Have they given a reason for holding?
They go through their process of checking everything. That FEMA already checked and made sure that everything was tick tight and verified. But they're justifying their position. Say, oh, we're checking it because, you know, if it's wrong, we'll have to pay it back, you know. But the problem is, FEMA's not even gonna pay it to you unless it's completely tied out and validated.
I wonder if, I'm just curious, we just need to, maybe, as a municipal association, a bunch of municipalities need to ask.
Well, I'm gonna go to
Probably need to
KPLC.
maybe ask in writing.
I'm gonna go to KPLC because obviously if they can waste money and take our money and be able to invest.
How long have they?
Oh, it's been about 6 months, 9 months.
That's long enough.
Well, I know, but what happens,
I'm
we're
joking,
not,
I'm
we're not the
joking.
only ones though, and that's some big.
It should be a lot of other.
That's how they justify their,
But it's
yeah, their
time to-
justification. It
It's
goes,
just time to explain, I was just saying, I don't know about Big DLT, but they need to be asked and reminded, and
They-
they
they-
need to get some publicity about it.
well, they get the publicity when FEMA says, hey, we give it to this organization, but they really don't give it to the organization. So, you know, you know, the thing is, it's only the smaller municipalities, because FEMA deals directly with Lake Charles and all of them, they get their money direct, they don't have to.
That needs to be explained and it needs to be addressed. I'm just talking out loud because it really does need to be.
Well, we've talked with them, we get contact with them weekly as to why it's not, you know, we just closed out this week, we just closed out Vita. 05.
2015.
Anyway.
Closed out the
Okay.
insurance.
No, the claims and all this stuff, just like we had this one.
FEMA.
FEMA.
FEMA, okay.
FEMA claims, yeah. Anyway, then going on, the other thing, sales tax, we're gonna have the ARP, the other $500,000 that'll be coming in this month, this year. Expenditures, capital outlays, we're looking at asphalt for about 200. This is where we're putting the wastewater treatment for the oxidation pond, the 1.7 million. We hope and we pray that FEMA is working with us, that we may get a good portion of that back from a FEMA, as part of the FEMA claim. So, but we're running it all through sales tax one, and sales tax one is kind of where we don't want to just skewer all of the other funds, that we just soon run everything through sales tax one for ease of keeping everything at one point. Water plant, Buddy Ballpark will be in here not if, but when we come to do the funding for the back two fields, that will also come out of sales tax one. The ARP, we've gotten $24,000 for new computer software and upgraded document management. We've got listed a pipe bursting for $300,000. And of course, the HVAC, that is going to be replaced, that we're hoping we just keep from month to month. We just had significant repair just done again, that we get that replaced. Now, all of that will come out of the first ARP funds, which is the ones we've already received. We'll also be receiving the other $500,000. Sales tax two, streets, basically that's excavator, lawnmower, and other equipment will be a no gap. And sales tax three, police storage drainage fund, that's the one we're working on back here off of North Lightner at the end to the tracks that they're gonna be putting in the drainage fund that we're matching. And then, of course, we got 3 drainage projects, which include South Store Avenue. We also will have some funds for doing the park. We call it Serenity Park. It really hasn't been given a name yet. We will recommend a name at some point. I think the Garden Club has a recommendation. But at that point, I'd rather get it done before we do it. But we'll just, for ease of development, we'll call it Serenity Park. Identification at this point, till that comes about. So, given all of that, then, you have the budget there in front of you, we did do a revision from the presentation on 5/9 last May on this one, and you can see the increases. And basically, we went through those and looked at them and made sure we feel very comfortable. The net effect is we have made sure that admin, general admin is balanced, both in revenues and expenditures. And I say balanced, I think there's a little bit of a difference of $5,000 or $6,000, but that falls well within the 5%. In addition, a couple of other things that we found we didn't have revenue expectations, since we've got a franchise tax from, the people that run the,
Well, we think that's where it's from.
well, yeah, we still had, no, we got a check for 30,000?
16,000. 16.
It's not for the franchise tax,
It's
it was,
not.
it's gaming.
Oh,
It was
it was
cash
the
receipted
gaming,
wrong,
it's
yeah, I
cash
found it
receipted.
today.
Okay, well, we were
Yeah.
worried about it, so
Was hopeful.
we getting the revenue
Yeah.
here for things we didn't even know about, but we're trying to figure out why. But, a lot of this stuff, we tend to underestimate, especially on the revenue side. Expenditures, we get, like I say, we're putting up with increased pricing pressures, doing things that we need to do, and trying to keep a control on those pricing pressures. So you do see a little bit of increases. We've done some based on actuals and expected spending. We're gonna try to save where we can. I mean, you know, like everybody else, we're getting hit, like electricity. You know, of course, that revenue, we'll see the offset on the revenue a little bit. The electricity itself, I think Energy just put out in the newspaper that everybody's electricity price is going up in June. At least $25 to $50 per account. So, you know, if they're getting that hit by that small amount, we'll be getting hit by thousands of dollars. I don't know what that means. We did correct the PD salaries. That was, they use actual when they should have used DOE or listed of positions that would be filled. So we did correct that. We did offset some of that expenditures on the expense side. Like I said, you're welcome to look at them. You see them all there. So the budget, you see the town highway budget. You know, I guess if you got any questions, let's go for it. The transfer from the fire district is $160,000. That's just the taxes they collect. We do that all the time. They give it to us, but they spend it under their accounts, under our fire department operating expense as far as the budget goes. Oh, I want to make you aware of an issue with the fire department. They lost a pumper. I don't know, are y'all familiar with that? It's going to be $60,000, $80,000. So there's a question about, do they even want to spend that money on a 25-year-old truck? And options are buying a new one, but they went out and looked at those. They're going to cost $500,000 to $750,000. And of course, I don't think they've got the budget. And at some point, I may want to come back to the council and say, do we want to assist them in acquiring that through some mechanism, either through a loan or a grant from us to them, you know, in conjunction with the police jury, so that they can get a fire truck, because, you know, that impacts everybody in the town. And I'm saying that's not in my budget, but it's something I want you to consider, because, you know, that also will put pressures on what we do or don't do in this realm of everything we're looking at now. It's not in there, we didn't put it in there, but I wanted to make y'all aware of it, because it's, you know, that really impacts our ratings, that'll impact, you know, the ability for them to put out fires. So the first one, I guess, on the budget, you see that, let's see, does it give a total here? Total fund revenue, 2.935. Total run fund expenditure based on this budget is 2,931, for a net difference of about $3,000. I'll say it's basically flat. Imbalanced general fund. Now be aware, the other thing I've got in here, you know, because I'm always letting y'all know, is I did put $25,000 in here for a new truck for the fire chief. The one that they got is basically racked out.
That one's
Yes. It is a danger. In fact, there's when we talk with them, the transmission, there's a problem, And I don't wanna spend $10,000, $15,000, so I told them, we're gonna put one in and we'll buy it. That is a town expense because we provide that, and we'll pick it up. And I put $25,000 in here. It looks like it's gonna be closer to 35, and I will just transfer cost, or I will find savings somewhere in the budget, be able to offset that number, because, you know, we need to have that. If you look at it to that last page on page, page 5, capital outlay. Yeah, but in reality, we went and looked, of course, there's at least a 6 to a 12-month lag, and we're looking at Tahoe or other things than the Chrysler truck they had, because those are a year out. We're trying to get something within 6 months. And, you know, that looked like, was that what it was, like 4 to 6 months on the Tahoe?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
And then
yeah.
like, and then for the Ford,
Oh, they're a year out.
yeah.
Yeah, no, that's why Keith and them had to buy a used one, is we were given
We're looking at it,
$30,000 to buy a
But I will
piece of
tell
them.
you this, Willie's been trying to contact them, they kind of hard to get a hold of. Because you gotta go to the guy that has the state contract, you can't just go buy one.
And of course, the new state contract. So we put it in here. We hope to get it by you know, during the budget calendar, or the physical year that this goes on. So it's entirely possible. We may not even get it till that. I have offered, we have a vehicle that they can use or charge mileage, you know, in a basis, because we don't want that truck, you know, hey, spend that kind of money for something that's gonna break down anyway with all the issues. And so we're working around those type of situations. So, is there any specific line item or anything that you might have questions on anything to do with the admin? You know, we're looking at his replacements as we'll do the leases. I think we've got 1 or 2 leases that are running out, you know, and I think that.
Going out this, yeah.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, so we'll replace them with leases to try to do it. But even on the cost of his, you know, we're talking things that cost $25,000, $35,000 under state contract last year. We're talking, what, 50 now? And that's not without the lights, that's just the vehicles themselves.
The Tahoes are a little less expensive than the Ford.
So we may go with.
But you're not a Chevy guy.
Well, he's gonna get.
I'm not- I don't have a choice, but you know I am.
But we're gonna go with whatever we can get, is what we're trying to stress, you know, it.
Can't wait that long.
And then, of course, the fire one, that's the one that we get, the budget we get from them of just operating expense. If that's not it, we'll move on to the next one. Now, this is sales tax 1, which, like I say, a lot of things are running through this thing. And so on this one, sales tax, we get quite a bit anyway, you know. That's page 6. Page 6. Yeah, on this one, sales tax, you're gonna do over $1 million, just, you know, the sales tax that come into this one. And remember, this is water improvement or for any purposes deemed necessary. You know, we changed it A to be in perpetuality, is that how it's pronounced? Perpetuality, and it also allows us to use it not only for water, but for any other, I guess, loans or, you know, how do you say, any bills for the town of Iowa, which is what we would use for the ball fields, as well as for any of the big things. In addition, this is where we're gonna run through our FEMA reimbursements, you know, American Plan, all that other stuff. And like I say, you see the money. I'm hoping we don't spend that outlay of 1.7 million. I hope we get that back. That's, you know, we don't show that as a revenue, but we will file, and they're working continuously with FEMA to be able to, you know, at least pick up the damage part of that. That will give us, extend our sewer, we would hope, for about 4, 5, 6 years without having any more significant problems. In addition, it will allow us to grow without having to worry about going and borrowing money to put in a alternate sewer system, because that would be tens of millions of dollars. You know, that's kind of why I'm trying to make sure we don't borrow any money for any of these projects. We'll just do it from our own cash flow. Because at some point, we're gonna come down to where if we have to put in a mechanical sewer system with all that kind of money, we will have to borrow a very big amount. And so that's, you know, that's why I'm saying, you know, hey, we'll do 2 fields, let's see how much it costs with all this stuff. We'll try to finance it through our cash flow and our savings, because we still have the other things that we've got to do in the town. We've got the roads and the sewers and all of that stuff to do also. And we also want to keep a good cushion, because as you can tell by the last hurricane, we spent about $2 million that, you know, in total we're waiting to get back, you know, and so it's not that we're hurting, but it's a cash flow. You know, at some point we will get it back, but you can't predict it.
There's no time frame on when they have to pay that back to us. I mean, reimburse us.
No, that's what I'm saying. The one we just got from 2005, they gave us the money, they just gave us the paperwork saying everything's in balance and everything's agreed for, and we don't have any more dispute with it, close it out. And that's why I say, I do know they got the $1 million. It's just the state says, oh, we're in stage 7 of 9 or 6 of 8 because they want to check it. Well, they're not adding any value. You know, FEMA sat there and looked at every piece of paper, looked at every support before they would even allow us to charge it. So what are they doing? They're just sitting on it for cash flow purposes. So, but we will get it. The question is whether we get it this year or next year. We also, like I say, in a lot of this stuff, we do try to anticipate, you know, on a cash flow basis. We anticipate it to be this year, but in reality, some of this stuff, you know, is long term. It takes 6 months, 9 months. By the time they start, it may be into the next physical year. So we just put the money, like I say, I'll come in front of y'all, as I've always done, to say, hey, do we want to spend this? Are you comfortable with this? Get the commitment. You know what's going on. See, we broke out some of the ARP because we have to do it separately to say what we're using it for. And we have some of that money we spent in the current year, and some of that we're spending in the next year. But then we still have $400,000 to $500,000 we'll look at and try to figure out. You know, that's where I would use your feedback as, hey, if you see something that we really need that I've not anticipated at this point, that we need to add, we can work it in. The next item on page 8, parks and streets. This is the one that we are working for the normal park operations and minor capital that takes place within the park itself. You know, like if we go and you put in a new, replace a seesaw, you know, that's where that cost all comes out. And of course, the cost to upkeep the park. You know, at some point, I know that we may want to do other things in the park, but that's something we need to talk to. What's not in here that we'll probably run through sales tax one, and maybe this year, maybe that year, it's buying that land. You know, I'm not sure where the status is. We did send the park land that we're getting back here. Right back right in front of Vanessa's place, you know, the lots and stuff. I think we've got it set out.
Oh, it's at the attorney's office, yeah, they're doing the time.
You know, and y'all already approved it. I'm just saying that cost will come through, depending on, hopefully it'll get in this current physical year, but if it doesn't, it'll be early in July, which means it crosses the physical year.
Is that what, on the river, where all these trailers are?
No, that's right. You know where Vanessa Road turned like that, it goes right there? It's that piece of land. And what we may do is, you know, I was talking with him, we may want to straighten out Storer Avenue right there and leave the road that's in front of you, you know, be able as emergency exit, but close off that part where they come in and they do like this. You know, they make
Go
the
into the
insert.
park?
Yeah, and so, you know, once we own that land, we may make that road straight so that when people park there, they don't have to worry about crossing traffic to go to the ball fields. course, we would leave the road that's in front, you know, that's right there in front of your house, to be able to, you know, if you have to get out, you have a way to go. But with that little part that's, you know, where you turn initially off of Railroad Avenue, you know, we'll just move it down so that when people park there, they won't have to cross the road. And it makes sense to be straight anyway, you know, coming out. Your road, that road store comes like this. This is your, you know, your trailer. What we're gonna do is, this is the land that we're buying. You know, instead of turning here and doing this, we will close off, do what we need to do to turn this into parking space right here. And then this road will just go straight.
So instead of pulling in where you're going in now, a little bit further.
Yeah, it'll be a straight shot. We'll leave this road right here for people, you know, if they wanna come and park, you know, how we do it. But then, if you walk through the ball field, you're not having to cross it, you know, any kind of street traffic,
Yeah.
you know.
Over here.
Yeah, yeah, I'm just saying for convenience and also, you know, because we're doing this to try to get as much as we can around our field. You know, for being able to get that access. Right here, this, right here, yeah. And instead of the road doing this like this, we will straighten this road out right here. Well, you'll have a little parking, but most of this parking right here, they'll be able to park here, they'll be able to park all the way over here. And then, you know, go to the ball fields that corner.
So you gotta go straight here, your people from this road here, it's going through your parking lot.
Well, no, but we'll make a road through it. And then we'll just take this off. It's just moved, instead of having the road here, we'll have the road here, and then this will be parking lot.
Extend, in other words, take this off for being parking and extend it this way. And have the
Well-
road, her turning to get into her place this way, and she's right here. And
Yeah, and this road will leave because you'll still have to have this one to be able to get emergency out. But,
Do the way you do your ball field, you won't be able to have.
no, we're gonna do it here, we're gonna do that, we're gonna do it here, or he was saying that we could maybe do it through here. But, you know, the thing with doing it here through the park is we can't build that center concession stand at this point until we determine how to resolve it, you know, whether it's, you know, something we have to do through here, or whether we have to go around some other way. You know, that's on a long-term basis, but what I was saying with this part, at least it cuts back, you know, we will still have this, but the thing is, we don't necessarily have to make this parking at this point right here. We can store it, we can use it for all kinds of things. But then people can park all the way around here and up in this area and, you know, not have to worry about traffic when they're doing that. Just, you know, at this point, we're going to get the land and then we'll come back and visit and say, hey, does this really make sense? You know, and we're just trying to make sure to keep the you know, concept. You know, if you don't want to do it, I'm okay with it too. It's just,
It'd be better if Vanessa sells us her lot.
Not gonna happen. We'll buy your lot.
and as you can tell, the expense and the revenue, you know, it shows 58,000. You know, I'm still on page 8 on parks and streets. You see the total revenue minus the total expenses. That 58,000 will end up probably be part of the park, the surrender park. We just didn't put it in here. If you look on page 9, that net total, that's basically the difference between your revenue of 260 and your expenses of 201. So we're building a cash flow. The next item is on 10, sales tax 2 streets. We are needing some equipment that needs to be replaced. We're spending a lot of time on maintenance. That's basically they're old. We need to go ahead and get them fixed. Go ahead and get that equipment so that we can do our jobs out here. You know, it's kind of like, this is when we do the street sweeping and the mowing of the right-of-ways and all of that is in that. So I am putting in $500,000 street repair. As you know, we've been notorious behind on street repairs. And this is one of those things that we're going to try to get a handle on going forward. Right now, we're doing the street repair that's behind Steins right now. They're going to be paving the duo. They're fixing the potholes and they're going to repave them. That we're hoping to be completed in this current budget year. But what we're going to do next year is First or Second Street over here. They really need, that's another streets that are in really bad shape before we identify additions. However, we do have money. That'd probably be another $250. I'm guessing that's kind of what we paid for on that. Maybe we need to look at some other locations that need heavy street repair because we need to get aggressive on this. To keep from fighting potholes and trying to do what's right for the page to get the payments. The other thing that's not in here, just to let y'all know that we're gonna have to pick up at some point. Remember we talked about Ash subdivision? Talked with Mr. Bouquet and everybody on that. It looks like that drainage is somehow, it looks like we accepted those a while back. Those are not the code. They've got plastics and that they're falling in. We're going to have to replace them. I'm just saying, we're gonna have to bite the bullet and replace that stuff.
That one, that's what I was telling, Walt the other day. They put in the first deal, they put in white plastic pipe underneath the covers. And they were doing it, he said that if I remember right, the highway department was using these plastic. Now, the one that's caved in right now that I wouldn't look at, they're black plastic.
That's the one I think, Pat, you would fix that, right? Is that the one you filled in?
There's one small one that we patched, but Mr. Drill and I went and looked at quite a few of them.
Yeah. So we're gonna have
But
to.
everyone's problem is, except one place, is the catch basin, not the pipe itself.
Well, I know. But that may be one, we talk about the next drainage. We just got this one for the next year. That may be the one we need to put in for the next drainage of matching funds that need to get.
Isn't it pretty much everyone on that road has that issue on Ash itself?
No, not whatsoever. You got about 5 issues, and it's all catch basin. There's no, except one place, they got a pipe, The rest of it is where they put the catch basin. That's what I'm saying. When we accepted that, we did not accept catch basin and stuff like that. It was not done whenever we accepted the road.
I don't know what can we do about that, Mr. Duca? Is there anything, I don't,
The road and the stuff was there, but I'm saying that the catch basins were not put in at that time.
They were not part of the plan that was submitted.
Right.
I was not advised of that. I knew that was maybe an issue. So I have to look at that and see the answer to the question.
Because
But I was aware of that issue, but I hadn't heard that. Or just some mention.
So who would we go back against or something?
I don't know if we have anybody to go against, but obviously it was done contrary to the plans that were submitted. And I don't know the answer to that, Joe. Would it be the developer at this point? I'm not sure.
Because what I'm saying is that here we accept the road. Those houses was not built whenever we accepted the road. So how could they put a driveway in and put what they, we accept? It wasn't there.
It's one of them complex legal questions. I guess Mr. Bouquet's gonna have to get somebody on there trying to figure it out.
I can't answer that for sure.
Yeah, and this is not for this, but I want to make you aware because at some point, we'll have to make plans for.
Because I've been going out there after every rain, we don't have that much rain, but just to see if the water is draining and stuff like that, and it looks like it's going pretty good right now.
Is the problem that the catch basins were put in improperly?
Wherever, Pat could tell you about it.
We talked about it later, but you've got a catch basin, when you put in a plastic piece of pipe and a cement catch basin, you have to do some sealing around there to make sure that what we're seeing today doesn't happen. And it looks, apparently that was not done.
They didn't
Can
see
it be repaired?
Yeah, it can be repaired, but it's gonna take some digging, some time, and some money.
Yeah.
There's
But each one, that's what I'm saying, the one that we looked at, except one, it was all the same thing about, they didn't glue the pipe right. And the water going underneath the pipe. You understand what I'm saying?
This is getting longer and longer from all of us, I tell you. The other thing on streets, you know, of course, you know, unless you got any questions, this is a case that revenue and expenditures is in, you know, is in balance. Sales tax 3. Now, this is drainage, and we've got quite a few drainage projects that we're trying to do. You know, some of it we talked about was matching. We are doing things right now that Pat has been going, and we found out that we're having to use our own people to blow out culverts. In addition, if we find that there's flow and that, you know, you have 3 or 4 inches that's standing back because the culvert's too high, we're going to start putting those back in the right place. You know, because we already accepted them, that they are what they are. We've already had one on Kitty that we had to do. You know, we just get them out there, they, you know, they lift up whatever, they yank up the culvert, they dig it out, and they put it back to where the flow will go. But I do know Pat is working with our people, that we're going out every periodically, we're gonna do a program to do all of the culverts blowing down, and they're blowing it down. We used to do the fire department, and they couldn't get as much pressure as what we had. And I'm gonna tell you that the former person on that didn't do what he was supposed to do, and we didn't know about it. We are now fixing that issue. We're going through blowing culverts, so places that we do have significant flooding issues, they're prioritizing, which is back on DeVete Street, back in that area. You know, we can't control the rain, but we can control that, hey, if it rains heavy, at least it moves out as fast as the lateral will allow. You know, not having obstructions in any of those culverts, making sure they're done right. The other one that we're doing that is back on 2nd, 12th Street, you know, back there near Shakey's, around that area back there.
Sure.
Yeah, back in that area. That's the other area that we're going to put immediate prioritization on, because I know they're having flooding issues. We can't, you know, they've done a project back there, but it looks like there's still flow issues.
Well, years ago on that thing, they also had, that has to go under the railroad track. And that's where they stopped us from doing anything under the railroad track. And that could be a problem, a dam.
Yeah, well, you know, the option of that is putting a pump in and pumping it somewhere, you know. I mean, you know, it's an expensive solution, but if you can't go into the railroad, you know, that's gonna be your alternative.
That's your main drain.
Well, I know, but I'm just saying, it'd be some big pumps just like they do out in some of these places. But, you know, that is not within the scope of what I'm trying to get here with the budget for drainage here. That is just trying to make sure things are clean and that they're flowing and that culverts are set right. You know, irregardless if it's there or somewhere else, if we go by and see there's a backflow of 4 or 5, 6 inches that don't clear out because the culvert's not set right, we're going to have to go and have someone reset those culverts. And, you know, some cases it may be, we may have to break concrete to do it, but we're going to do what's right to keep the flow going and make it sure.
Well, years ago, we had a problem on where the old donut shop was, on that street. And I went with the mayor. We walked in and I said, I believe that you start from A to B. And we had 9 different size covers from A to B. We had to pull them all out and put all the, the man that was doing it before, he would send out there and redo the ditches. He did ditch 4 foot wide. They had a swimming pool. You know, the ones we did, and that's been 20 years ago, it's flowing real good now.
Yeah. Well, no, we're not going to bother things that's going, we're trying to address those that we know we have problems on. And trying to be proactive is kind of what I'm trying to do, you know, and doing those things. And Pat, he knows that when we do that stuff, we shoot a grade, we make sure we got it going the right direction. We just not arbitrarily going to do anything. if it comes to a significant capital, of course, I'll bring y'all it up and say, hey, do we want to, you know, kind of like, on North Line, you know, put in the basins and all of that stuff. Of course, you know, you'd only want to do those places that don't have flooding already, you know, but that's where I would bring to you to say, hey, do we want to do this? And, you know, right now, what I'm trying to do is just make sure that in our budget, we have ability to handle and at least make effective what we've got and try to make the best of what we have without necessarily spending a lot of capital. And so that's what I'm saying. In this, you see the drainage, that's some of the drainage costs, that's some of the things that we're doing.
David Sherman, what are those three projects, three drainage projects?
There was one that they talked about on North going by signs, remember?
Yeah, I think that one they've already actually done.
Well,
Or they done part of it. Pat, y'all cleaned some of that went out south of town, right? The ditches and
Yes,
things
we
like
did.
that? So that was included. We may end up picking up something else. We just know that, you know, there's a lot that needs to be done.
And we also try to get them cleaned out as we receive phone calls. And we have received some phone calls. That's an example behind Stein, and we've already taken care of that.
And of course,
People were pleased.
And we're still digging ditches as on critical cases where people, hey, I really need it to make sure we do that also, so. Anyway, that's why, you know, we always put big dollars in and we end up spending big dollars. The park improvements, of course, that's part of the cost to do with the Serenity Park. You know, we've got them in 2 or 3 places to be able to make sure that, let me tell you, the first bid we got on that, to do everything, was $250,000 was the minimum. There was 3 bids and then were all higher. So what we're going to do, because we don't, you know, you get in this issue about if it's over a certain amount, you've got to do all this extensive bidding. So the pavement part of that and the culvert part of that, we aren't going to do. We're going to do all the rest of the park. But then when we go to look at drainage and things like that for culverts and stuff, we'll do it as a right-of-way project, not a project of the park. Does that make sense? You know, kind of break it up. And then that also gives us some flexibility on the timing of when that's done. I shouldn't have said it. I mean, I'm being like straightforward. I mean, they're going to be two separate projects.
Nothing wrong.
I'm working for the town and trying to get as best we can, you know, with everything. So, this is another case. Your expenditures and revenues are in balance. The next one, Fire Protection District, page 13. That's not our call. That's basically everything that the fire department submits that they have to give as part of our audited financial statements. Basically, as you can tell, this is the capital expenditures. This isn't the operating. The operating expenditures are on the admin side. This is what they think they're going to spend related to capital improvements, which would be like fire trucks. The last one is city waterworks. Now, I'm gonna, you know, let's go straight to the bottom line. The bottom line is, oh, that's we get out. That's all we were out of. The revenue and expenditures. I think what happened, some of the expenditures ended up going in the sales tax one, which is related to the 1.7 million. Done. Now, you know, this is a large part of our fees. No, right there it is. Okay. You see the line that says prior year cash approved on page 14? Yeah. That is a deficit we're working under right now, you know, for the budget, $210,000. There's 2 or 3 reasons for that. The first is, you know, we talked about at some point we would need to put metering in. We're still working to get the metering in. Some of that is we have had a tremendous drop off on the number of accounts. We've lost probably 20-25% of water revenue accounts. You know, that
We're not returning.
Yeah, you know, they're closing out and things like that. I mean, we had a pretty tremendous drop off that hasn't picked up. And of course, we have to go with what our current revenues is with the current account numbers. The other one is, we did put some increase for garbage. You know, I'm expecting garbage costs really to increase for all the extra things that we're going to do. And at some point, we'll have to go back in there and readjust our garbage price. But initially, until I can get a handle on what is routine for the town, we didn't put any, you know, any significant increases on anything, on revenues of any kind. In addition, when we start going to metering, one of the things is we're going to try to offset lowering the cost for the minimum quantity, whatever that may be, 2,000 or 3,000, lowering that minimum quantity, because a lot of this cost is stuff that people are losing through, you know, they don't worry about leaks, they water a plant, you know, we will capture that stuff at some point during the next year, once we get all the metering done. And I think we'll have at the next meeting to tell you where the status is. But we are about 90% done. It won't happen probably till, you know, the end of the year, but we will put that in place because we do want to analyze it and lower our base price. And for people that only use 2,000 or 3,000 gallons, you know, lower that price, and then make those that are really using excess water to fill their pools, to water their grass, to not fix leaks, let them pay for, you know, the excess water. That's why we have a negative balance at this point, you know, going forward. I think right now, it's not that bad. I'm just saying from a budget, we're going to project it and recognize that there's something that's going to have to be done during the fiscal year. You know, like we say, it's, we're kind of lucky in the sense that $1.7 million, we built up some of the cash in that, you know, but then FEMA's gonna pick up, or we would have had to increase the coverage and break-even analysis for all the sewer part of that too. And which brings to another thing that we'll have to figure out, is when people have initial leaks that have high water bills, by inference, that means they have high sewer costs. And, you know, as soon as they recognize that they have that, we can give them a break on the sewer costs. Because you know, if you're leaking to the ground, it's not metered, so by state statute, we can adjust that to a reasonableness. By state statute, we can't adjust what goes through the meter, we have to bill what goes through the meter. But that's a small cost. When you look at that sewer cost is significantly higher. That's how we're going to help people initially when they, I had a leak I didn't know about, you know, I got this $500 bill. Well, we can't go back to what your average was, but we can go back and say, hey, water was $100 when it should have been $17, but then we'll give you the break on the sewer, which, you know, that's the best we can do with our legal justifications and stuff. Anyway, I just want to make sure you was aware why that was, you know, the loss was 210. That's a combination of all of that. If we get more people coming back and houses and things like that, you know, we may recoup some of that in the revenues and the sewer fees. And of course, like I say, if the garbage ends up not being as expensive as we anticipated and that we budgeted in there, that will offset some of it. Because we are trying our best to identify things and fine tune that, but yet give everybody comfort that we're trying to keep our town beautiful and, you know, picking that stuff up as opposed to strictly just going to garbage. Because, you know, in some cases it's very difficult. People tend to want to toss things out there. Of course, the other thing that really offset this is where you get hit with your highest insurance. You know, all our property insurance, you know, we could cut back and go uncovered, but at this point, I'm still trying to maintain coverage for what we have. You know, it's some of the costs. Luckily, we're going to have a new water plant building. How far are we along, Pat? Are we almost finished with that?
Yeah, we're getting real close. Energy set the last poll today, and once they get the power ran to that building. It's just a matter of time. Just got to finish doing the inside of it, but it's really coming along.
And then you remember, we got the new generator. One of the things that we have found that we're going to have to spend some money on is we need to put a UPS, which is an uninterruptible power supply. From the time that you lose electricity till the generator comes on, it's a delay. And that creates significant wear and tear on your equipment. And you know, it can make you lose some pretty expensive equipment. So what happens is they never put in a UPS. We're going to put in a UPS. I mean, we spent the money to get a good generator, but still that delay can tear up your pumping equipment. It tears up a whole bunch of things. That's very high priority, and Pat's working on that right now. In addition, on a lot of this stuff includes costs that we're trying to do to remediate the outages we have from sewer and water and stuff. Just like the pilot stations, they have found solutions. You know, and I've got to give Pat kudos of things that we don't have to spend the $10,000 to bring the vacuum trucks out to clean out. They're finding that, like these chopping pumps and putting in these special pumps that, you know, can take stuff that's flushed down the sewer and chop it up so it doesn't jam up. So, you know, I'm tired of seeing all these rentals for vacuum trucks and calling out people on time. We're also, you know, Pat's going to a standardization so that all our pumps are the same one and we can keep backups. So if we do have outages, you know, we can handle it ourselves and change it without being a burden on our, you know, our sewer and water system customers. You know, I know you've been pretty aggressive on that PM stuff on that. So, you know, all those costs are also rolled up in here. We're hoping, yes, it's a little more this time around, but once you get it in place, that cost drops off on a year-to-year basis, because you've already got everything in place. You're not having to go buy, you know, $50,000 pumps that are, you know, chews up stuff. You know, you may have to change out parts of it, but you make one-time purchases. That's all in this budget also. Yes. Any questions or anything like that, or any questions in general about the operations? I do have one question I would like to ask y'all. At some point, you know, Pat's my QC guy who's working preventive controls. You know, if y'all are happy with him as he's doing his job, I'd like to make him the public works director. And this would take approval of the council, you know, to be able to do that. But, you know, I wanted him to prove to you as well as myself that, you know, he can do it and he can do a good job of it. Would y'all be? It's kind of like Keith with, you know, he doesn't really have an assistant fire chief. Everybody's below. He doesn't need the you know, thing. But I'm saying,
Captain.
yeah, he's got a captain and things like that. And see, Pat's kind of working that. He's kind of quality control, and he's kind of doing it. But we've not named him to be able to sign off the papers and things as the public works. I'd like to name him as the public works director. If y'all agree on that. It won't change anything. It won't change what he's done. It won't change. I want to make sure that you know, if y'all feel comfortable with me naming him as public works, if y'all are, you know, that he's communicated with you and that he takes care of y'all's business, because that's something I've always asked him to do. You know, so that it's, you know, you're not having to go to me. You can say, hey Pat, help me do this. You know, I think he's shown he's been very good at being able to handle those and solve your problems. He had to get involved in, and I get involved when I need to, but generally.
That's something we'll go for on insurance.
Yeah, I mean, if you're, you know, if you're not, then I won't even bring it up. But that's where I'm kind of asking.
What we need to make a motion or something?
Oh, we will, yeah, we'll do it in June. I'll do it in the June one. I just want to make sure y'all are comfortable. I don't want to bring.
No, I mean, I worked a little bit with him there, and he does a fine job with me.
So, okay, well then I'll put it on the agenda. I didn't want to do, you know, bring up and there'd be some issues, you know, hey, we can keep going on, but I would definitely like him to have that position, because then he can represent and sign off on the town, on documentation that we now have 2 or 3 different people.
Well, I have a question about the ball fields. How much money are you estimating this phase one to be? And where's the money?
The money's gonna come out sales tax one. That's what I'm saying, we're running everything through sales tax one. And I have no idea till we bid it out, you know, that's why I'm trying to get him, he's going to be ready for the bid on the handicap field. And he's also told me that he will have the bid package ready within July to try to get that bid out for the two back fields. That's why he wanted us to make sure that we would get, that everybody is comfortable going to 300 fields at the back.
Why did the design change from
That's
2019?
that was the baseball people,
Who is
The
the
president.
Is that John
president of.
saying that we need 300?
What was the question?
Who do we talk to like, where'd the 300 feet come from?
It came from John Bailey. He said in order for certain tournaments, Daniel to be brought in, people from out of town to come in, that the fields had to be at least 300 feet deep.
And the thing is, we're gonna have them have portable fences that we can shorten the field for any, for any age, but this was what, now, this wasn't my call, I mean, that's why, I guess I was working with,
Would you like me to get some clarification on that from him?
I don't understand why John didn't reach out to us. He's seen the dang design since 2019. I don't understand why. I mean, this is dated June 6th.
no, that's what I'm saying. And the only reason we went back, I had to make the architect go back and say, this is what they said they wanted, and, I was only gonna commit to 2 fields, either way. If it's like, okay, and this was the only way we could put 300 fields in. Any other direction that we would put 300 fields in, like long ways, would be interrupted.
Right, I just think that, and I think that needs to be a bigger conversation than, 300, that's what John wants, or that's what he said. And and I'm glad we're having this, today rather than, on one day. But, there's more that goes into it than, well, we have the fields that can accommodate that. Do we have everything else that accommodates it? Is it even gonna come? Are we doing 300 fields for one all-star tournament per year? We have to decide, is that worth it?
Now, as far as, I want to tell you, as far as, and I'm just saying from my perspective, the town is not in the position of tournaments. We're in a position of providing people fields that they can play on and helping them.
Right, and I agree with you personally, which that's not necessarily how we decide. But if that's the case, then, like softball is going to play on a 200-foot field. So now it minimizes the impact that we can have for all of our students. Or
Well, that's,
children.
The thing is, I'm not against putting in the other two fields. We've done this so that we could expand to 4 fields. And they don't have to be 200-foot fields. They could be whatever size you want. As you can look at it on the design of that thing. In fact, he put in the other size fields that we talked about. Right there. The problem comes in, this middle field right now, we're going to have to make sure it's available, for next year and it's good and stuff like that. I don't have a problem saying, hey, let's do this too. Let's see what the cost is. That's the biggest, is I have no idea the cost until we bid it out. We don't have an idea.
So are you planning on phase one being these two fields right here?
No, the 2 back ones. The ones that we got the drainage fixed on.
It's listed as phase 2 though.
It says phase,
Is that
that's all I'm asking. That one.
Yeah, but it says phase 2, but that's basically the one we're talking about.
Okay, so the phase one, which is what we're gonna advertise for, are gonna be these in the back corners.
The Shepherd Field first, and then those also within a month. And that's what you want. Now, he can reduce the field. I mean, I'm just saying that's what I was told, and I was, looking for y'all for guidance to say, is this good or not? I don't know, because.
The main thing is we want to address is the children who play here during rec ball. Yes, it'd be great to have tournaments, absolutely, but we need to address the fields to fit the age groups that we have during our summer league. Is that correct? Would that be correct? having the fields big enough for
If, I mean, if,
accommodating.
How far
our
is the
kids,
high school
our
field?
league.
oh, ours is huge, 380 in center.
Well, I thought whenever this guy came, I think the fields were around 250, 275, something like this.
That's,
And
That's-
that's what he's seen, if he could have expanded, and he went ahead and expanded it.
yeah. And the thing is, we will have them put, being able to move walls in to shorten the field. I'm assuming there's no change in the,
Shortening it up is never gonna be a problem.
No.
So that's easy. It's the fact that if you do, because we're so tight on space, if we do the 2 300s, then you're making the third and fourth field, in the future, pretty limited in scope.
well, you can actually do 300. The thing is, it will push up against the covered basketball court. And of course, in either case, we were going to do away with that middle field anyway. But.
Well, I don't think that's quite right. I don't think it'll reach to 300 on either side. Just, I did a very quick to scale measurement, so it's probably off a little bit. But I don't think you can get to 300, and I think that's why originally in 2019 we had designed it at, and I don't know off memory, but I want to say somewhere around 250, 275. I don't quite remember.
Well,
Maybe
The
these
thing-
two would be 300, the
Yeah.
other would be 250.
Well, that's what we talked about. See, the future Mustang, he said 175. We can put those in place, and then, of course, that does leave us some paper. You can even put 200. The other thing that's not in here is the central pavilion, because we'll at some point, have to resolve that pass-through for being able to get, emergency out of that back area. That's why I did not put in there for a central pavilion, a bathroom at this point, because we still needed that exit.
Future at 175 feet.
But if you want to, shrink it, that's okay. We've got to have that information. Tell me what the council desires.
We
at this
did in
point.
2019. We had it all laid out, very, very cut and dry. And I don't understand why we're changing it through whether it's just John Bailey or where this back and forth is coming from. I don't understand it, and it's
I
repetitive.
agree.
Part of that though was I was letting Julie, work with them on what's going on. And I know she kind of got carried. She had some family problems, got carried away. I think that's where it kind of got overlooked. But at that point, I do know they were talking about it. I don't have a problem. We're only going, in either case, we are only going to do 2 fields so we can understand and make sure we can afford it. And it's going to be that back fields anyway, replacing those 2 that we have.
Right, and that's neither, but that's one part. The second part though is Mr. Gerald said it at the last meeting. I know I feel this way. I really think that's what we need to move on first, is those 2 backfields. Let that be phase 1, and phase 2 can be the Shetland,
Well,
the
the
Shetland
thing is,
field.
we're ready to do on that one. We've got the money and we're also trying to line up credits. And the thing is, I'm kind of disturbed because, we should be taking care of our handicap and having safe fields for our handicap and those that are challenged mentally. There's not a lot of places you can go. They can play throughout the year. They don't have to play just during the fall field. They can play throughout the year. And that is something that we as a town should recognize and allow them to have a place to play. It's not that out of that much out of line. And we're hoping to get as much assistance from government for these kind of special cases. Because that field can still be used for all the others too. It can be used for T-ball, it can be used for the smaller ones, we're putting it in there, it's gonna have very good lights, it's gonna have very good stands for them. So it's not only for them, but they need to have somewhere where it's safe and not trying to convert a normal baseball field for wheelchairs and from a safety perspective. And we can do both of them. And I'm ready to do the back. All I need to do is you tell me, what do you want? If you want 300, I will get him on it to make sure he does it. If you only want 250, so be it. We will design them to 250 and get those in so that we can get them in before the next plant season. This middle one, we're gonna take care of. We got insurance, we got $100,000 of insurance money. We're gonna put up the new fences, we're gonna put up lighting, We're gonna try to improve everything. The concession will probably tear out the top part of that and revamp the bathroom and the concession so they can use that. And go ahead and get it ready in time for next year also. But that's what I'm saying, we're running up deadlines. If you wanna even have an opportunity to have those two fields in the back, I need to know.
Why don't you have the architect and the man, John Bailey, get here and explain it to them?
That should have happened 6 months ago. It should have
Well,
happened 8 months
he
ago.
came up and he said that the man went up to him, and it was, I thought it was yeah, it was the 300. There was something, and I didn't look into it, but I know that special fields have to be a certain length.
What size fields will accommodate the league
Yeah.
up to a certain age for the kids that play rec ball? Here.
That was, right, that was the basis of how we determined that first
The
deal in
first-
2000.
the first
It'll
drawing that we
it'll
had.
get them to 12.
12 years old, because after that, they go to junior high.
Your junior high.
And play junior high ball,
Typically.
and then high school.
Well, he's gonna be here, he's supposed to be here at the next meeting, right, next week?
I hope so.
And either way, I understand that that's a small part of it. If it's 300 is the best option, and that's what's decided, great. It's just that here we are, dragging on and dragging on.
At this point, we're ready to make the call at the next meeting. Well, yeah, he's still gonna put the package together to advertise it in time to be able to do that. So, this next meeting, at this point, we will work it into budget. I just don't know, I don't even know how to even estimate that cost. Right now, with everything like that, what the two fields cost, I don't know. We won't know till we put out the bid package, for it. And I wanna put out for two of them, because, two of them are really practical, and I think irregardless of the price, that we would be able to find money and from our cash flow and from our savings and not constrain the other projects we have, at this point.
But we can make it balanced and allocate 940,000.
Yeah, I'm just saying, that we got lots that we can do, because we got 10 million in the bank. Well, I'm just saying, I don't want to, you want to keep certain things and stuff, but I'm saying, we have to have something in place to be able to bid out to say, all right, what is it truly going to cost us? And, and that's where I want to keep you involved in all this. It's just,
You keep saying keep us involved. There's 5 people who told you we think that the buddy ball field should happen second, not first. And then you're like, yeah, we're not doing that.
We talked about that, and I'm pretty adamant that we need to help our smaller ones, and we've gone through the effort of trying to find cash and trying to offset it, so that we're not using the other cash that we can use for the other fields.
How much is that grant for the handicap?
Well, right now, we've got 30,000, but we're trying to put it under FEMA to be able to see that FEMA may be able to pay for part of it.
So that's like what, 4% of the $700,000 allocation?
Understand that, but all fields are going to cost. Wait till you see the cost of these two fields.
I'm very aware.
And if I can say something, we've been waiting, there's gonna be 2 years since the hurricanes. The insurance paid us a certain amount of money when they came in and did their assessment on the damages. They give you up to 2 years to complete the work. When you show the invoices and the completed work, they give you what they call the reserve, the depreciation value of it. If you do it. So, yes, and we have a lot that's not done because we couldn't make a decision on which fields we were gonna do and how we were gonna lay it out. So now we're dead in by August 27th to get these invoices, or we're gonna lose that money. So we didn't know if we were going to put it back the way it was, which the insurance says, if you put it back the way it was, then we pay you your money. But you're not putting it back the way it was. So we're gonna have to try to buy scoreboards, buy bleachers, things that we will be able to use, even though it's gonna be different than what it was when the hurricane happened, okay?
And some of that will be going into both the
Right.
all 3 fields, so.
On another plan, we thought FEMA would help us because of, we call it an improved project. This Mr. Cutler just explained to us that an improved project more or less means that, okay, you're like the tower, the communication tower that we put up, that was considered improved because we had to, by wind standards and certification standards, had to purchase something that was more expensive, so it wasn't putting it back like it was. It was improved. That's an improved project. What we're doing here is not an improved project. What did he call it? Adjusted or something like that. He had a different name for it. And he said FEMA will not cover that.
So by, like when we spoke the other day, repairing the fields that we're gonna need to use for at least another year, that would be part of that insurance money?
If you kept,
That's
if
what
you,
we're gonna use for the middle field.
if you put it back like it was, but if you put it back like it was, is it wasting money? That's what you're balancing.
And see, that's why we're trying to put it into the middle field, because that one is not going to be impacted by the two fields that we're going to be doing. And the other thing is, they have quite a few grants by the Parks and Recreation that we're going to shoot for. And that's why I'm saying the buddy ball field or whatever, those will be things that they would favorably look on, especially because of the group of people we're trying to address and trying to get involved in Parks and Recreation.
Hey, let me interrupt. I just spoke to John Mayer about the 300 feet. And he mentioned Daniel, and he said that you would probably know more about the specs than him. He's getting this 300 foot from the fields in Sulphur that have to be 300 foot for 14-year-old tournaments to take place in Sulphur.
Yes, sir. I'm glad you said that. That makes sense. And I'm going off memory without, I don't have my notes from back then. That would make sense that the conversation was about, with our school set up, 12 is what we need to service our kids through 12, because at that point, they start moving on to the high school. Well, it's one campus, but that facility, rather. That would have been the logic, and that would make sense, whatever the math is, 25 or 50 foot difference. So that's possible. Very, very possible. I could have that for Monday for sure.
But he also,
said
we don't need both of them at 300. He said one would suffice. All we need is one 300 foot field.
I mean, at this point, the other two fields could be smaller than that, and this is the most logical layout for a 300-foot field. It gets here because we've got the drainage fixed, we've got all that.
No, for sure. That all makes sense.
And I'm okay. I'm okay. If you say you want 275, we will make it happen, and we will get the money, and we'll make sure the financing and all the revenues come through. I just, like I say, I'm open. 275, 300, 250. I have no earthly idea. I don't play baseball. That's where I'm leaving it to y'all to decide, hey, what is appropriate, because that's, I'll just make it happen, and make sure that we're getting the bids out and that we're trying to meet the timing to get ready for next year. And so, as far as the thing that we'll next, we're having this meeting next week anyway, right? Yeah, so do y'all want to, at this point, just think about it and get back with me as to
It'll be
what
on
we-
the agenda.
Yeah.
To discuss this.
Yeah, no, I'm okay. I'm just, like I say, we will
Tell you right
find the
now, see,
budget.
my grandchild, she plays in Lacassine. She's a sophomore.
Mhm.
They play in this backfield right here.
Right.
They have more home runs hit,
So,
because
yeah,
the,
that's not even.
Right.
Yeah, they were playing here, the Lacassine girls.
Yeah, but
were.
that's not even 300, is it?
huh?
That's not 300.
I don't believe it.
Well, that's-
They've been hitting a lot of home runs.
I talked to, when I saw the 175, I said, okay, perfect, that's softball. And I talked to our softball coach while we were up here. She said 200's about what they use for softball. A few of them creep out to 220. And so that was my logic with 175 being too small, saying, hey, well, we can't accommodate if a high school softball, you're not going to play high school baseball there. It's not going to happen. But you could play high school
Years
softball.
ago, the high school,
No, right.
Was
On
back
that
here.
backfield. Yeah, that,
years
Field
ago.
in the back there.
I know.
when I was in the park committee.
I'm saying that ship has sailed.
And, you know, that doesn't prevent us for the next two, you know, like I say, let's see what it does, and maybe we, you know, within another year or two, we can add the other two fields, you know, at a smaller field, you know, 175 or 200, because those would fit in there, you know, in that quad, and then we could also build our quad back. You know, like I say, the only reason I did not put the quad in there for, you know, concession or bathrooms, which we'll need, is just until we can resolve how do we get emergency movement out of, you know,
Evacuation.
store. Yeah, because right now, the distance between those two are wide enough to accommodate a vehicle. I did verify that. So, you know, that you can have vehicles go down there, which means we would go up a little higher. Or conversely, if we could ever talk Miss Victoria into selling some of that land right there, you know, coming down that avenue, that's, you know, putting in front there. As far as the budget goes, any questions on that? Are you comfortable with that, or do you have anything, or do we need to get back with?
I guess my question is, we don't have a definite amount
No, but
signed, but the budget can be amended.
Yes.
Once we get the bid, and we decide.
You
on
will,
which one to go.
well, even for these projects, I'm gonna bring it back to y'all to approve anyway. So you have a number in there, and if we say, hey, let's do the baseball field, and we'll push out something else, we can still be within budget without, you know, without having to amend the budget per se. And that's why I say, we go with, we put dollars in there, and we put expected projects, but, you know, with all the engineering and everything, a lot of times they get pushed out, and we can move something else in, like the baseball fields. And that's why I didn't put it per se. Once we get that, we start spending it, you know, and see where the cost flows coming in, when we're gonna get it, we'll have to go back in, and we'll either push something else out, or we'll in budget, or we may have more revenue, you know, if we find revenue streams to offset them. We'll still have to amend the budget anyway on the expense side, but at least it's easy to explain when you're saying, hey, I've got this in revenue coming in, I've got this in expense.
Well, if the budget is that fluid, then it's easy. Monday, we can add, you know, 750,000 to that spot, and we can allocate
Well,
that.
well,
That would
if
end
I
up
say-
being about 1.5 million for the park that we could allocate, and we could have that ready to go. That way,
We would just put it in sales tax one, we would just add the 750, I don't have a problem with that.
let's do it for Monday. I'm in.
So we'll just make it part. Now, do I need an amendment on this so that we can keep it clean? Because that will be the second one we'll have to have. So I guess I need to amend
Yes.
the agenda to accept, adding in,
No, you can go ahead and just do a motion to amend the budget, the proposed budget. And then
Okay.
we're gonna present it with the budget hearing before the meeting.
so, okay, then I make a motion to amend capital outlay to add an extra 750,000 to the capital outlay regarding the back ball fields.
So moved.
And then, now just be aware that the net effect will be, you will have a line that says prior year, because it's taking cash out of, the, you know, the thing, but that's okay, it's just like the way we did it on the utilities is how we look.
Okay, so we have a motion, we have a second.
And
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Done. All right, the next item, motion, I don't know if y'all know that, Debbie Muir resigned from the board. Yes. She's, so, you know, in keeping with trying to keep diversity on the board, I want to bring in someone that maybe is not as familiar with them, to be able to challenge them. I'd like to, I guess, I'm recommending that Pam Adams be approved to be put on the fire board. Pam is the mother-in-law of the Bozo. I don't know if on the baseball field, though, you know Bozo. That's his mother-in-law. She is, at my church, she leads the youth ministries and stuff like that. And I've talked with her. She's willing to take whatever it takes to learn it. and, you know, be a very functional member of the board and be there at all the board meetings. I know that they've had some problems in the past, you know, with quorums and stuff like that. And she's willing to do, she lives right off. Yeah. Anyway, you know, I think that she would be a very beneficial, she would challenge them, and, you know, I told her, hey, you know, she's willing to learn. You know, this is what we need on the board, we need some fresh blood to do, especially being, we're going to, you know, like I say, they're going to have to buy a brand new fire truck, and it needs to be done fairly quick. Otherwise, I would have brought this up at the regular meeting, but this gives them a time to be able to bring her on board and, you know, for her to be there.
So we will, that needs to be on the agenda, please.
No, I want a motion here, the motion will be, you know, I'm nominating her, motion to approve her to be, you know, be put in our, the town of Iowa's position on the board.
She would represent the town.
Yes. Yes. So,
I move to approve Ms. Adams for Iowa Fire Board member.
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. And unless y'all have anything y'all would like to bring forward or questions about anything else, be aware, we're still waiting for them to do the lights down Main Street with the high intensity LED lights. They're supposed to do it in June. No, that, I thought they were doing too. What they were working is putting on the electrical lines to the new water tank. And then I have to, for 2 months to do on that. But, yeah, we're still trying to get them to do that. Pat, anything you can think of as far as what's going on with all the different things we've got?
I'd have to look at my list, probably there's a lot going on, but definitely.
Well, just send them an update too, so. Okay, I entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.